right, so I'm doing the Grimm Brothers version of Snow White. A lot of people
Such
know
a good
the
day.
Disney version, which is a lot more fluffier and happy. And the Grimm Brothers, as a trend, are usually a little bit darker because they base their stories on the common folklore and village stories. I'm doing the second half of the story, so at this point, Snow White was born to the queen. She wanted a beautiful daughter, but she died when she was born, and so the king took another wife who is also very beautiful, but also very proud and arrogant and evil. And so she has a magic looking glass, and when she asks it who's fairest, he tells her it's Snow White, so she gets jealous and she sets the huntsman after her to kill her. But then he has mercy on her, and she runs away and finds the 7 dwarves. And then we're coming into the piece where the stepmother is finding out for the first time that Snow White is still, in fact, alive. Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all? Queen, thou art beauty rare, but Snow White living in the glen with 7 little men is 1,000 times more fair. Then she was very angry, for the glass had always spoken truth, and she knew that the huntsman must have deceived her, and that Snow White must still be living. And she thought and thought, how could she manage to make an end of her? As long as she was fairest in the land, envy left her no rest. At last, she thought of a plan. She painted her face and dressed like an old peddler woman so that no one would have known her. In this disguise, she went across the 7 mountains until she came to the house of the 7 dwarfs and knocked at the door. Fine wares to sell, fine wares to sell. Snow White peeped out of the window. Good day, good woman. What have you to sell? Good wares, fine wares. Laces of all colors. She held up a piece that was woven of silk. I need not be afraid of letting in this good woman, thought Snow White, and she unbarred the door and bought the pretty lace. What a figure you are, child. Let me lace you up proper, for once. Snow White, suspecting nothing, stood before her and let her lace her with new lace, but the old woman laced so quickly and tightly that it took Snow White's breath away, and she fell down as dead. Now you have done with being the fairest. And the old woman hastened away. Not long after that, towards the evening, the 7 dwarfs came home. And they were terrified to see dear Snow White laying on the ground without life or motion. They raised her up, and when they saw how tightly she was laced, they cut the lace. And then she began to draw breath. Little by little, she returned to life. Not long after that, when the dwarfs heard what had happened, they said, the old peddler woman was no other than the wicked queen. You must beware of letting anyone in when we are not here. When the wicked woman got home, she went to her glass. Looking glass on the wall, who is fairest of us all? Queen, you are rare. You are a beauty rare. But Snow White, living in the glen with the 7 little men, is 1,000 times more fair. And when she had heard this, she was so struck with surprise, and all the blood left her heart, and she knew that Snow White must still be living. But now, I will think of something that will be her ruin. And by witchcraft, she made a poison comb. Then she dressed herself up to look like a different kind of old woman. She went across the 7 mountains to the house of the 7 dwarfs and knocked at the door. Good wares to sell, good wares to sell. The Snow White looked out. Go away, I must not let anybody in. But you are not forbidden to look, the old woman, taking out the poison comb and holding it up. It pleased the poor child so much that she was tempted to open the door. And when the bargain was made, the old woman said, "Now for once your hair shall be properly combed." Poor Snow White, thinking no harm, let the woman do as she would. But no sooner had the comb been put in her hair than the poison began to work, and the poor girl fell down senseless. "Now, you paragon of beauty, this shall be the end of you." By good luck, now near the evening, the 7 dwarfs came home, and when they saw Snow White laying on the ground as dead, they thought directly that it was the stepmother's doing. They looked about and found the poisoned comb, and no sooner had they drawn it out of her hair than Snow White came to herself and related all that had passed. Then they warned her once more to be on her guard and to never let anybody in the door. And the queen went home and stood before the looking glass. "Looking glass against the wall, who is fairest of us all?" "Queen, thou art of beauty rare, but Snow White living in the glen with 7 little men is 1,000 times more fair." When she heard the looking glass speak, she thus trembled and shook with anger. "Snow White shall die, though it should be the cost me my own life." And then she went to a secret, lonely chamber where no one was likely to come, and there she made a poisoned apple. It was beautiful to look upon, being white with red cheeks, and anyone who should see it should long for it. But whoever ate even a little bit of it must die. When the apple was ready, she painted her face and dressed herself up like a peasant woman, and went across the 7 mountains to the house of the 7 dwarfs. She knocked at the door. Snow White stuck her head out the window. "I dare not let anybody in. The 7 dwarfs told me not to." "All right. Well, I can easily get rid of my apples elsewhere. There, I will give you one." "No, I dare not take anything." "Are you afraid of poison? Look here, I will cut the apple into 2 pieces. You shall have the red side, and I will have the white one." For the apple was so cunningly made that all the poison was in the rosy half of it. Snow White longed for the beautiful apple. As she saw the peasant woman eating a piece of it, she could no longer refrain, but stretched out her hand and took the poisoned half. And no sooner had she had a morsel of it in her mouth than she fell down as dead. And the queen, casting a terrible glance, laughed aloud. "As white as snow, as red as blood, as black as ebony. This time the dwarfs will not be able to bring you back to life." And when she went home, she asked the looking glass, "Looking glass against the wall, who is fairest of them all, of us all?" "You are fairest now of all." Then her envious heart had peace, as much as an envious heart can have. And the dwarfs, when they came home in the evening, found Snow White laying on the ground, and there came no breath out of her mouth, and she was dead. They lifted her up and sought if anything poisonous was to be found. They cut her laces, combed her hair, and washed her with water and wine. But it was all of no avail. The poor child was dead and remained dead. Then they laid her upon the bier and sat all 7 of them around and wept and lamented for 3 whole days. And then they would have buried her, but she still looked as if she was living with her beautiful blooming cheeks. You cannot hide her away in the black ground. They made a coffin of clear glass, so it would be looked upon from all sides, and laid her in it, and wrote in golden letters her name, and that she was the king's daughter. And they set the coffin upon the mountain, and one of them always remained by it to watch. And the birds came too and mourned for Snow White, first an owl, then a raven, and then a dove. Now, a long while, Snow White lay in the coffin and never changed, but looked as if she were asleep, for she was still as white as snow, as red as blood, and her hair was as black as ebony. It happened, however, that one day the king's son rode through the woods and came to the dwarf's house, which was near it. And he saw the coffin upon the mountain, and beautiful Snow White within it. And he read was written in golden letters upon it, and he said to the dwarfs, "Let me have the coffin. I will give you whatever you ask for it." But the dwarfs told him that they could not part with it for all the gold in the world. "I beseech you, give it to me, for I cannot live without looking upon Snow White. And if you consent, I will bring you great honor and take care of you as my brethren." When he so spoke, the good little dwarfs had pity on him and gave him the coffin. And the king's son called his servants and bid him to carry away on their shoulders. Now it happened, as they were going along, that they stumbled over a bush, and shaking a bit of the poisoned apple, flew out of her throat. It was not long before she opened her eyes and threw up the cover of the coffin and sat up alive and well. "Oh dear, where am I?" The king's son answered, full of joy, "You are near me." And relating all that had happened, "I would rather have you than anything in the world. Come with me to my father's house, and you shall be my bride." And Snow White was kind and went with him, and their wedding was held with pomp and great splendor. And Snow White's wicked stepmother was also bidden to the feast. And when she had dressed herself in beautiful clothes, she went to the looking glass. "Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all? O queen, although you are a beauty rare, the young bride is 1,000 times more fair." And she railed and cursed and was beside herself with disappointment and anger. First she thought she would not go to the wedding, but then she felt that she had no peace. She went and saw the bride. And when she saw her, she knew her for Snow White. And she could not stir from the place for anger and terror, for they had red-hot iron shoes, in which she had to dance until she fell down dead.